One of the bigger crops that we grow on our farm, at least for our produce operation, is sweet corn. And this is our oldest patch of sweet corn this year. Today is June 19th, and this corn was actually planted on April 5th. This particular variety of corn is a 72-day corn, which means that it's from the time out of the ground till now, till it's mature, it should be 72 days. However, because of planting it in very cold weather in April, it takes a little longer to mature. Corn actually will only be its peak for about 5 to 7 days because it'll either be too young or it'll get too old and it'll get too starchy. So we actually plant corn about every 5 to 7 days to make sure that we always have the freshest corn that we could possibly have. As with all plants, they generally need some kind of pollinator to help the fruit of the plant be able to grow. And corn is no different. A tomato is actually self-pollinating, where a little bit of wind will blow and the pollen will fall on itself to be able to pollinate the plant. Something like a squash or a pumpkin plant actually needs bees to pollinate it. Corn also has to self-pollinate, and it pollinates by the tassel. And if you guys can see, this corn is not ready. It'll be ready in about 2 weeks, but here is the pollen that is on the plant. So anybody that plants corn, if you plant one row of corn, you probably will not get a lot of your kernels get developed because the pollen doesn't necessarily always fall straight down. If the wind is blowing, the pollen from this plant may go 2 or 3 rows over, which may be 5 to 7.5 feet to the next plant to fall on the plant. So what has to happen, and I'm going to grab one of the developing ears of corn to show everybody, is this is called silk. And I'm sure that everybody that's ever eaten an ear of sweet corn and has peeled it has had this annoying little hair-like substance that is kind of in your way and you have to clean it off. Well, this is very important to the plant. So what has to happen is the pollen off of what's called the tassel has to fall on the silk. And once that happens, that will kind of generate it into becoming mature. So then what happens is all of these silks go to an individual kernel on the ear of corn. So if we get in a situation where there's a heavy volume of rain or a tremendous amount of wind, or say that the temperature is extremely high, say 100 degrees, there'll be a problem with the pollen from the tassel pollinating the plant, and your kernel will not mature. So sometimes if you get an ear of corn and maybe look right up on the top of it, there's immature kernels, that could be why, or sometimes it'll even happen down in the plant. So now, like I had talked about earlier, each of these silks go to an individual kernel of corn. That's something that most everybody never thinks of, but if you peel your ear back, or your ear of corn back gently, you can see where these silks will go to an individual kernel. So if I can get this apart gently enough, and if you look, each of these goes down to what is going to become an individual kernel. Each plant of corn will generally produce one mature ear of corn. Sometimes you will get two, not tremendously often. A lot of times you just get one. We plant our corn, we plant 2 acres per planting, and we'll plant about 20,000 seeds per acre, so we're planting about 40,000 seeds per planting.